Post-Millennial reports big, beautiful bill includes removal of illegal immigrants from Medicaid. Everybody thought that wasn't the case, but we have this from Senator Eric Schmidt, who says the big, beautiful bill kicks 1.4 million illegal immigrants off Medicaid.
Good.
For too long, Americans have been paying for the welfare of people who shouldn't be in our country. Today, the Senate voted to end that. Yesterday, there were a lot of rumors floating around about the ban on Medicaid for illegal aliens being stripped from the bill. Thankfully, that's not true. It's very much in the bill we just passed. You can look it up, page 602. Here's where the rumor came from. During yesterday's vote-a-rama, an amendment banning Medicaid for illegal immigrants was voted down. The clip of that vote started circulating online, and folks took that to mean the provision had been stripped from the bill altogether. But that was just one of many messaging amendments designed to force Democrats to vote against specific provisions. In this case, a ban on some Medicaid funding for illegal aliens who commit heinous crimes on the record. It was meant to show the public how radical they are. The ban itself was already in the bill. It was never taken out. So, Amber, you were mentioning something about this like not being true, or what is it?
Well, it's kind of a subterfuge. I read the provision he's talking about, and what it does is it caps the amount that states can be reimbursed when they have illegal aliens on the Medicaid payroll. And it also caps the amount that federal Medicaid dollars go towards paying for emergency room visits from illegal aliens. So it's not a full ban. It just slightly reduces the amount that states get back from the federal government when they have, which I think it's like 20 states that allow illegal aliens to get coverage. Usually through the CHIPS program.
What is the CHIPS program?
It's like the childhood nutrition stuff.
Ah, it's a big trick.
Yeah.
I say let's just get rid of all entitlements.
And emergency room coverage on the state level too.
All entitlements gone.
Yeah.
All of them.
Great.
You'd probably lose the next election.
Yeah, communism is favored for that reason. The country, I think there's a tendency of countries to drift towards communism because who's the guy with that famous saying that something like the United States will last until politicians realize they can offer up tax?
One of the founders. Yeah, when you can offer, you can vote themselves
money from the tax coffers.
Whatever, yeah.
When they can vote to pay, something like that. So where we are currently at, if you went back to the founding of this nation and said we would have a social security system, they would laugh and be like, what? What do you mean? Yeah. We're going to take just roughly half of all of the money of everybody in the country who works and then distribute it amongst, everybody else. They'd be like, that's insane.
Yeah.
And now we're here saying, but we have to have it. We have to have it.
Well, yeah, because people rely on it. They've set their retirements, as they've made that their retirement plan, which is a terrible idea because it was only supposed to be like when they started Social Security, it was like 65 was the life expectancy for the average man. And it was basically to prevent women from ending up destitute when their husband passed away. And now it's just like, anyone that can come up with some kind of injury and get onto Social Security, it doesn't matter how old they are. People that are overweight get onto Social Security. There are people that will they're like, oh, I'm too big to work, or I have my pain and blah blah blah, I can't work, and they'll get onto Social Security. All of those
the
people,
SSDI program has a lot of problems because if you have a disability where you could work part-time, for example, you have to be very careful about how much money you make, because if you make over a certain income, you get kicked off. So they just all don't work at all.
Yeah. Which is disgusting.
Once you give people different rights or start different entitlement programs, it becomes extremely politically unpalatable to strip away any of this stuff back without people getting extremely pissed. Obviously, this stuff's true for a lot of different entitlement programs, but obviously, once you're giving out stuff for so long, and now the government rolls that back, people are going to get pissed. I think that was a big thing during Prohibition too. People were like, "We've been drinking for so long, now you're going to roll this stuff back." I think that's also become the case now with abortion. Women have had access to abortion in most of our country for so long. Now, when you mention, which the Trump administration wisely hasn't mentioned at all throughout this entire administration, very interestingly, that we completely overlooked, by the way. But, now it's going to be impossible to roll that back because women have had access to abortion for so long. It would make it a lot more difficult too.
Well, wait a minute. You realize that Trump is like, no, this is a states' rights issue now, and that was the intent of the administration.
Yeah, I think it was.
Why would he mention it?
It was politically savvy for them to lay off the issue that's been dragging down Republicans for so long. I also think they actually encouraged, there was a case in Texas about the abortion pill that they encouraged judges to dismiss because maybe more specifically about it, but I think it was how there's issues with mifepristone, I believe, the abortion pill
Yes.
that is more threatening to women's health than previously led to believe. But then the Trump administration encouraged judges to dismiss this case and not push it forward. They're not trying to make the abortion issue an issue at all. My larger point here, though, is that when women have, or anybody has access to abortion or rights or different entitlement programs for so long, it becomes unpopular to strip those back or take those rights away.
Yeah, I mean, that's fairly.
I think the way to do it for Social Security, like the only way that would be politically feasible, is you have to reimburse everyone exactly the amount that they've paid in. And then for people who are close to or at retirement age, perhaps open up an account privately for them.
Like a sunsetting of it.
It's complicated. One thing we could do is we could install lights in people's hands that when you're about to turn 30, they blink red. And then when you turn 30, it blinks red.
We need caps and reforms.
Just allow people an option.
Serge knows what I'm talking about.
Let people.
Well, they should do it like an HSA.
Opt out. Look, if we'd have pegged the Social Security fund or the money that the Social Security fund, the money that's supposed to go to Social Security, if you'd have pegged it to the stock market or made an investment account with that same money, you wouldn't have any problem with the.
Well, yeah, you only get like 75 cents back on the dollar because of inflation for Social Security.
One of
the
it
big
needs
other
to be
big problems,
restructured, or else it's going to destroy the dollar.
Yeah, what I think is total BS is the cap on Roth IRAs of what is it? They upped it to $7,000, I think, last year. There's an income limit and there's a contribution limit.
So interesting you mentioned that, because I was very curious about this myself. I actually read into it, and the reason why the Roth limit was so low is because it was purposefully planned for low to middle income people, and they didn't want it to be abused by people who did make.
How is it abused?
Because if you have enough money to invest something like $20,000 some odd dollar, invest $20,000 or plus some odd dollars and still reap those tax benefits, like there are other ways.
You're still paying the tax. You're just paying it up front.
That's what Senator Roth, when he tried to make, when he made the Roth IRA thing a thing, was the reason, his reasoning behind it.
So you're disincentivizing people from using this really awesome retirement account. And it's not because of they didn't want rich people to abuse it. It's because they wanted people wedded to Social Security.
Well, when
Just get rid of it all of it. You name it. No more roads. Nothing.
You sound like Thomas Massey.
Libertarians.
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with libertarians.
That's why they only get a
being
point
like
or two in any general election.
Yeah, the best they ever did, I looked it up, was 3.3 with Gary Johnson.
They don't.
Oh wow, Dave Smith didn't do better than him.
Dave Smith didn't.
Damn, I'm shocked. Wow. Oh, okay. I wonder why he didn't.
Nobody's a libertarian because everybody wants to tell other people what to do with their lives.
Okay, hold on. Elaad, you do know what the Libertarian Party is, right?
I don't think the Libertarian Party knows what the Libertarian Party is.
It is an amalgam of degenerates who want their degenerate things to be legal, so they band together and basically say, I'll make my degenerate thing illegal, and then you can have your degenerate thing be illegal. Deal? That's what the Libertarian Party is. Have you been to one of their conventions?
I have.
And it's half that and half Ron Paul fans.
So the thing is, I think younger right-wingers have some affinity towards some of the ideals of libertarianism, but when I turned hard against the way it manifests in the Libertarian Party is when they had a rally with literal communist and socialist groups, and that made me realize this against the imperial war machine rally.
There are people that call
Angela McCurdle and others.
Angela McCardle is not a socialist, but there are people.
She rallied with communists.
Hold on, there are people
proudly.
There are people in the Libertarian Party that would call themselves libertarian socialists. People like Vosh considers himself a libertarian socialist, and
I'm not talking about those people.
I'm talking libertarian socialists?
No, I'm talking about at this rally that the Libertarian Party in our country teamed up with different literal socialist and communist groups because they had common.
Oh, the anti-war part.
I think that is disgusting, and I couldn't do any more apologencia for the party. They should completely be abolished, and all the influencers within.
They should be abolished.
Yeah, we should totally abolish the Libertarian Party because they're a Trojan horse for the far left, and they're literal apologists for communists and socialists. Well, they're willing to work with them.
Well, no, but
what do you have to say about
why
that?
abolish the Libertarian Party?
Because
if you're going to abolish parties, why don't you just abolish the far left?
Yeah, and their allies, the far left and their allies, which are the Libertarians.
I mean, if we're going to do that,
clearly,
and
if
we're just pie in the sky, whatever we want, can we get a big boat, put all the leftists on it, and then send them off to Venezuela?
That would be far more effective than going after the Libertarian Party, just going after leftists.
Or Cuba?
Cuba.
Putting them on a boat would be nicer than putting them on a plane.
A helicopter?
Well, I mean,
whoa!
Well, I got to tell you, I went on a helicopter tour of Atlantic City. They're scary.
Libertarians?
Well, libertarians are scary for different reasons. But no, I did a helicopter tour of Atlantic City.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was
Those
one
things
of the
crash all
Helicopters
the
are
time.
yeah, it was terrifying.
I've been in a couple helicopters. They're scary.
I mean, I've been in a good helicopter once where it's like there's actual seats and everything. Now, this one in Atlantic City was like literally sitting in I felt like I was sitting on like a millimeter of sheet metal.
Yeah.
I straight up, and I was like, I'm ready to land.
A buddy of mine owns one of those helicopters they call the Little Birds that the Special Forces guys will be sitting on the side and hauling around. I've been on one of those, and that thing is pretty crazy.
I was advocating for sending leftists to a socialist paradise. I think that is a gift, and we should tax all right wingers at 50% until we pay to be able to give leftists their socialist utopia by sending them to Cuba.
I don't mind sending them to Cuba.
And I believe no conservative should argue against it. Everyone on the right should agree with me that we will tax every penny we have to from you. It is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Okay, but we have to send the neocons too, because if not, they're going to be calling for regime change and socialist utopia. They're going to be Boeing and Lockheed Martin are going to get all the contracts to orchestrate the coup, and then we're going to be involved in nation building.
Don't talk about our president.
Amber's after Elaad now. She's like, got to send the neocons.
I didn't know he was a neocon.
I believe in peace through strength, like the president does, and I don't,
All right. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.